All right, this is Infosec Decoded, number 87, with a 1 hertz CPU. But I'm starting with Shamir's vulnerability. I thought this is wonderful. Shamir, there is a problem. I've heard of it discussed in terms of key escrow. In cryptography, suppose you have a group of people and you don't want them to be able to do anything alone. So you want them to like share pieces of a secret key. There's multi-signature used in cryptography in blockchains, where they typically, each person has their own private key, and then you combine them to make an aggregate key or something. That's one way to do it, but Shamir's secret is cooler. In Shamir's secret, you make a polynomial equation, like third or fourth order, with a bunch of parameters and a constant. So it's a plus bx plus cx squared plus dx cubed and so on. And if you wanted to measure a polynomial, 2 measurements is enough for a straight line, 3 measurements is enough to determine a parabola, and so on. So each person owns one of the coefficients, or each person knows one measurement. You know the value of it at 1, you know the value of it at 2, you know the value of it at 3, and only if all those numbers are combined can you deduce the constant. So that sounds great, and that's a brilliant mathematical way to make something where you can design anything you like. You can have any group of people, you can say I have n people and m of them have to agree to do something. The problem is they found serious vulnerabilities in it. And they say this is the fundamental problem with all cryptography. They say it's the lack of documentation. People write these things, but there is not an engineering document making it clear what not to do wrong. And this happened to RSA and it happened to ECC. The system sounds great, but there are certain pitfalls. There are certain numbers you shouldn't be using in RSA, and there are certain numbers you shouldn't be using in ECC, and those are not easy to find or understand. So for example, here, the original one, people could just, there's like a bunch of these things called threshold signature schemes in use, and many of them have fatal flaws from simple mathematics like this one. If the secret is the constant and all the unknown parameters that you're getting from people are the other multipliers for x and x squared and x cubed, if you get to choose what point the curve is evaluated at, all you have to do is choose 0. And then the answer is the secret key from one person. And that's not as easy to avoid as you might think, because of course it's all done with modular arithmetic. So there are in fact a bunch of other values which modularly turn into 0. And there are cases where it's a little less obvious what calculation is done on the numbers, and you can maliciously choose a number which doesn't look like 0, but will in fact be treated as 0 and just give you the private key. And they have other very similar, simple problems wrong with these. So they explain them. This is very, very delightful, I think. And they even introduced something called ZK docs, which is they're beginning to write down a new form of documentation to go along with cryptographic schemes to try to make it easier for people to avoid this, because they're all like this. They sound brilliant, except there are some footnotes. Oh, don't do this and don't do that and don't do that, that are like harder to find and employ than you might think. So anyway, I love cryptography, and I think that's a great bit of further information about it. And then Liz has the radioactive pendants that will save you.
Well, not exactly. So apparently people have been buying these amulets to ward off the evil 5G demons. And
I saw those 2 years ago. Some woman tried to get me to buy one in the art department. She said, this is protecting me from the radio waves. You must know about this because you're a scientist. And I'm like,
yeah, well, you know, some of them are more, I've seen those in the past. People call that stuff what you're talking about. I think they call it organite, where they
something
take
like that. Yeah,
they take some epoch. It's pretty harmless. It's just like,
looks like a Star Trek badge. I thought it was a Star Trek fan thing.
Yeah, they just take some like epoxy and fill it with like metal shavings and marbles and wire and stuff, and then make jewelry out of it. Fairly harmless, but they've the hippies have escalated. I guess I can't even call these hippies. This is escalated towards now apparently people are buying things like necklaces and bracelets and apparently eye masks to ward off the 5G. And this stuff contains radioactive materials. So the Dutch government was forced to ban this stuff because these devices are filled with radioactive waste that emit ionizing radiation all the time. And that's really not good for you.
Well, I read one like a year ago where there's like a mine full of like radioactive argon, and people go and sit in it for hours to soak up the radiation to improve their health. They treat it like a health spa, and people fly in to go there and say it cured my cancer and stuff.
I mean, what could go wrong?
So this actually goes back a few years. There were some sellers in China selling negative ion jewelry. And what they did is they put powdered thorium in the jewelry and just sold it on like Amazon. And you could just go on to the internet anywhere, buy these negative ion jewelry things and get a pretty heavy dosage of radiation. And supposedly China does have this like excess amount of thorium dust they have no idea what to do with. So I guess they're just putting it in jewelry and trying to sell it to gullible hippies.
Apparently it's effective. I mean, because people are buying this crap to the point that the government actually had to issue a ban on it in the Netherlands. So
I saw this joke 20 years ago, and the guy said there's two facts. There's this radioactive waste we can't get rid of, and the second fact is people will eat hot dogs no matter what you put in them. So anyway.
Well, and it kind of reminds me of drinking bleach to cure COVID, you know. I mean,
doing now, yes.
I mean, the thing is that they don't advertise that it's thorium, they don't advertise that it's radioactive, so people don't really know that what they're getting.
Right.
You really need a Geiger counter, and most people, I don't think, carry Geiger counters in their kitchen.
And especially not the kind of people that would buy this crap to begin with.
Besides, all the scientists are in on the conspiracy, making those fake Geiger counters to scare you away from the real medicine that will save you.
Yeah, remember a few years ago, Sam, my final project for a class I was doing over at City College was a negative ion generator.
Because I noticed those were all over the place like 15 years ago.
Well, there were all these like woo things, like people selling rocks and saying they're negative ion. It's like, look, I'll demonstrate to people how to actually produce negative ions. And so I created a generator to essentially pump up voltages up to like 10,000 volts. And anyway, and nice there. But I had no idea it was going to get dangerous.
Free radicals. Normally you don't want free radicals. If you actually put negative ions in the air, would that be a good thing? I'm doing.
Apparently so. Apparently there is some research that is like, you don't want a bunch of ozone.
That's what seems like what would happen.
Yeah. So you sort of have to balance out like, not creating too much ozone, but also creating a small amount of negative ions, because apparently there is a good amount of research that show that negative ions do help improve mood for some reason. No one knows why. Who knows? And you normally get them at the beach. So this could be like you're at the beach. Of course, you're gonna feel bored.
Oh, that's all right. I know when I went to Whole Foods, they have this water that Gwyneth Paltrow makes that claims it has electrons in it. Other waters don't have electrons.
Yes.
Water has electrons in it.
Well, I tell you what, like the negative ions actually have more electrons. Extra electrons, so it's better for you.
They do, yes.
Well,
yes.
You can also go down to Rainbow Grocery and buy raw water, because in case you're.
I think I've heard. I think I've heard of that stuff. I think some of it's even like dangerous. It's like water without the impurities.
Well,
or with the impurities.
Maybe because who knows? It's just bottled up right out of the earth. So you could get you some cryptosporidium to go with that raw water. Who knows?
Yep. Oh, anyway, I don't know if we still have Kaitlyn, or we just lost her video. Are you there, Kaitlyn? Are you there?
I'm still here. Yeah, sorry.
Let's hear about the universe. You found the universe.
Oh, well, hopefully we'll find the universe. So The Atlantic has a great story written by Marina Koren, talking about what we're all feeling with the James Webb telescope at the moment. So the James Webb telescope has been in development for like 20 years now. I mean, it's been coming along, and it's worth billions of dollars. Like this
didn't take off yet, right?
It has not taken off yet. It's going to very soon, and that's the thing we're going to talk about. So on Christmas Eve, it is going to take off in a rocket, and it is just absolutely nerve-wracking. This telescope, like I said, took 20 years to build, is like worth billions of dollars, and it is just fragile and overly complicated. And basically like, so first of all, like if anything goes wrong during the launch, like the rocket blows up, like that would be just the worst thing ever. Or if the rocket misbehaves or something, that would just be terrible. But let's just hope for the best. And even if it does go up, this thing is so ridiculously complicated because it's not only one of the world's most sophisticated telescopes, it also has to fold up and be put in the fairing of the rocket. And so the way it works is that it needs to be actually kept a few degrees Kelvin above absolute zero in order for the sensors to work. So there's this giant heat shield below the main telescope array. And unfortunately, it does have to be folded, and it uses like Kapton. Like if you ever use Kapton tape, it uses Kapton, and then I think some like silver and stuff coating at the bottom layers, and basically works like a thermos. So a thermos, you have these layers surrounded by a vacuum, by more layers, and that's how it keeps cool, because it's going to be in the sun, right? It's actually going to like the L2 Lagrange point, so it's going to be it's going to have its back facing the sun all the time, and it's going to be like several over 100 degrees Celsius, but then the main telescope itself is going to be around 7 degrees Kelvin. So basically it works as like a giant thermos. And this thing is like I said, just if you've ever used Kapton tape, that's what it's made out of. It's Kapton. And so they have this like parachute type system where it's going to fold out like in space. It's never really, they did testing, but this is like a one-shot thing.
It's like origami, right? All these folding things.
Yeah, yes, it's like origami. So it has to like unfold in space. It has thrusters to get out there. If something is wrong with the thrusters, it is just, I don't think anything this expensive, any single piece of equipment this expensive has ever been launched before. And especially because it's so complicated. But one of the cool things I will say, they did learn from Hubble. Like I said, because it's going to be at the L2 Lagrange point, we can't send people out to fix it if something goes wrong. So the mirrors on the Hubble, not the Hubble, on the James Webb Space Telescope, they are they're this like hard material covered in gold. And the backs can actually deform the mirrors. So if there's any imperfection in the mirrors, it can actually correct itself. And I thought that is really cool. So
now Lagrange points are 60 degrees behind us in the orbit, right? So they're really,
there's actually 4. So there's 4 Lagrange points. There's one that's like behind us in the orbit, one that's in front of us in the orbit, one where it is in front, and this is where the James Webb telescope is going. There's one behind the like if the sun is here and the Earth is here, and this is not to scale, people. There's another Lagrange point on the other side here, and then there's
Earth 2 would be.
Yeah, and then there's like another Lagrange point on the other side. So there's 4 Lagrange points. And
it's basically a whole AU away from us. Going to take a long time to get there, I guess.
It's not a whole AU, no.
What, 60 degrees around the Earth's orbit?
No. So you're thinking about the 2 in front and below.
Yeah.
In front of the orbit and behind the orbit. So there's 4 Lagrange points.
Right.
This one is not 60 degrees. It's like 90 degrees. It's a parallel line between the sun and the Earth.
So how far does it have to go to get?
I think it has to go beyond the moon, I think.
Oh, okay. All right.
And so it's gonna be pretty far out there, but it's not gonna be a full AU out there.
Okay. Neat. Well, I'll be interested to watch what happens. And Irvin. Oh yeah, Irvin has this holiday hacking event. If he's there, oh, Irvin has vanished. Right. Well, we'll see. He may reappear later. Everybody in America flips in and out of existence randomly. Let's try Alan.
Here we go.
Are you back, Irvin?
I am.
Why don't you tell us about the holiday hacking?
So one of the 2 big things one of them is Try Hack Me's Advent of Cyber, and the other one is KringleCon. Been going on for 4 years now. Pretty crazy. 4 years.
Very popular.
I like their challenges. I like their little con.
And they have little videos.
And by popular demand, last night they said they're going to launch something new and to stay tuned. And this morning they told us what it is. They have made an offensive and defensive Log4j challenge.
Yeah, that's probably the best one for like general InfoSec students that want to do, you know, like pen testing stuff, right? That one and try Hack Me, I think.
Yeah. So Sam, I just looked it up. So the L2 Lagrange point, which is where James Webb is going, is 1.5 million kilometers away. So, and that's only 0.01 AUs.
Okay, good. They're going to one of the close Lagrange points.
They are.
All right.
Although admittedly the what's it called, the L3 Lagrange point would be about an AU away.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's on the other side of the sun.
Yeah. All right. And Alan has got Joker Stash.
Yeah, I talked some months ago about how Joker Stash, the most popular, most successful credit card stash forum, illegal forum in the world, was shutting down. And apparently the shutdown of Joker Stash really has had an impact on the overall carding scene. Group IB, which is a threat intelligence company, has released a report finding that the total carding market between 2020, middle of 2020 to the middle of 2021, has declined by $500 million, going from 1.9 billion to 1.4 billion. I guess considering the amount of damage that these carding forums and carding hacks do, 1.4 or 1.9 billion dollars isn't all that much, really, but that's a substantial decline in the scene, shall we say. There are, of course, a number of other sites that have popped up to replace Joker Stash and that have continued to operate, but it seems that there's just less activity on them. And the security, improving security of credit cards with the little chips, has also made it harder for those carders. It also looks like a number of the hackers involved in the carding scene are switching over to ransomware. And a lot of the people who in the past would have gotten a credit card dump off of a vulnerable target are instead selling initial access to ransomware actors. So that's how they're monetizing their hacks now. It's they're selling initial access rather than dumping credit card numbers, which aren't worth that much now anyway, it appears. Oh, Sam, I believe your mic is off.
Well, thank you. That degrades things a bit. All right. So a couple of years ago, Amazon in China was ordered to remove all bad reviews of the president's book, Xi Jinping. And this is just amazing stuff. And I've been reading articles about this. As this is like when Donald Trump got in and he demanded that they just put false news stories that his crowd was bigger and that the hurricane was going to reach a state it wasn't going to reach. And this is actually a deep issue. The Chinese model is what I think we used to have in America. Remember when in the 60s, when President Kennedy, the press would all cooperate and cover up everything bad about him, cover up his affairs. There was a belief that the news agencies should be state propaganda and they should prop up the idea of the leader as like a god. And this is why you do things like have a golden staircase and fancy clothes and fancy food and everything and a trophy wife. You must pose like a god of Olympus above the people to keep them in line. And that's what they're openly doing in China. And it's what the Republicans want to do here. And the thing which is sort of horrible is they might be right. This is the current issue. Perhaps it's better to have a society where you prop up a godlike leader and lie about him, and the people are mostly dumb enough to believe the lies, and that keeps them in line and productive. It's the alternative in America is where you believe that everybody should actually get the truth and that they can handle the truth. And I think the jury is still out whether people want the truth and whether they can handle the truth. Apparently, a large portion of Americans do not want the truth. They want everyone to just shut up and have propaganda about the leader. So the whole world is watching. I think the Chinese system and the American system, it is not clear at all who's right or who's going to win. But of course, if you think that Amazon or Microsoft or anybody is going to be the champion of the American way and not just fall in with the Chinese way, you're wrong. They'll just do whatever they have to make money. And they say the number one market for Kindle is China. So Amazon is there for the money. And Amazon's statement is, we obey the law. We obey Chinese law. Chinese law says the leader must have only 5-star reviews. It's what we do. And we're at an interesting point. Anyway, so Liz has got edible tickets.
So Berlin is trying out edible rice paper transit tickets that have been drizzled with hemp oil, which is said to have a calming effect.
Why?
The article did not cover the why. This does seem like a bit of a solution in search of a problem. But then again, after my last few rides on our local transit system on BART, I can see why you would maybe want something to calm you down once you get on the train.
Well, considering the number of people freaking out on airplanes, maybe they should try this.
Right.
All right. And Kaitlyn has got security risks in school apps. Who would have thought? Aha.
Sorry about that. Yes, so let's talk about school applications. The record by Recorded Future, star, period, TM, TR, has an article written by Adam Janofsky talking about how a new study finds serious security risks in K-12 school apps, which surprises no one in the security industry. Now, anytime you have these sort of niche applications where not a lot of people are looking at them, you're going to have these security vulnerabilities, especially when they are pandered to low-income or cash-strapped industries like schools. And so a report looked at these. It was a report published by the nonprofit Me2B Alliance, and it looked at what these apps intended for K-12 education were doing, and a lot of them were, sending data back and tracking students, particularly among like Google and Facebook, which surprises no one once again. But they would also have a bunch of other stuff going on too. In particular, they talked about how a lot of these apps would link to other sites, and those sites can get taken over. So they had one example where they had a dangling domain to a sports team website, and some scammers, just took it over. And now the K-12 apps now goes to the scammers website when the students go to the link or whatever. So yeah, and I'm sure there's so much more things wrong with these apps. This is such a high level overview of what's going on. I'm sure there's just a bunch of ways to inject code and just mess around. And I'm sure there's no way to make them super secure and keep the data secure and all this stuff. So yeah, just a reminder that a lot of the stuff that we are putting on, K-12 systems are the equivalent of stuff that you would expect to find with, find advertised to kids essentially. So,
Well,
And,
they're like IoT devices.
what better? What'd you say, Sam?
Yeah, they're like IoT devices. The number one consideration is cost.
What better way to get a captive audience too? Because your kid's in school, so what are you gonna do? If they tell you need this app, you're gonna download it.
Yep.
yes, yeah, some of the apps they talked about were actually pushed out across the entire district. So it's not just like one school or one classroom saying, oh, we need Canvas or we need this. It was the district saying, no, you're going to use our application. And that's all there is to it.
Yep. All right. Then Irvin's got the National Crime Agency.
The National Crime Agency, hopefully you can hear me well this time.
Yeah.
They added a bunch more passwords to Have I Been Pwned. So Troy Hunt rolled all that up and released version number 8, which I started downloading and started to crack.
Great.
I'll let you know how that goes, but my NVIDIA card is busy right now.
Yeah. That site is amazing. Now he's got 2 crime agencies working with him. It's becoming well established and respected by law enforcement. I've seen there's APIs so you can automatically check passwords against it.
Yes.
It's a big hit. And Alan has the one I thought is awesome, the 1 hertz CPU.
A CPU built in Minecraft, no less. I've never played Minecraft. I really don't know or understand that scene, but apparently you can do all kinds of things in that game, including building your very own CPU, which is exactly what user Sam Uri did for 7 months to create an 8-bit CPU inside of Minecraft. And
It looks like 10,000 pieces of Lego.
Yes, yes, and it's really impressive. It's interesting to look at too. It's kind of Borg-like. It's this big cube-like structure.
Sharing it actually. Let's see.
But it can do a bunch of stuff. It's 1 hertz, as you said, Sam. It has 256 bytes of RAM, so not a lot of RAM, but it's actually surprisingly capable for an in-game CPU. It has a bunch of different ALU functions, over 40. It also has branch prediction, which is just, I mean, really impressive. I mean,
Which means it should have Spectre and Meltdown.
Yes, right. And it also accepts external storage. You can plug in external storage. So you can code up a game separately, and you can play games like Tetris or Snake, where you can graph things, just like on an old graphing computer, on that display, as you can see there in that video.
Yeah, it's bloody awesome.
It's really impressive, and it only took 7 months of work.
Yep, and the games have to, of course, be sped up because at 1 hertz, your game is going to move at like 1 pixel every 10 seconds or something. So
Yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah. So the CPU itself runs at 1 hertz, but the game itself doesn't. So the way it works is that in Minecraft, you have this stuff called redstone, and people have been making ALUs and stuff like that in Minecraft for a long time. And so with this redstone, basically what it does is you can create a path to like sort of open doors. You can push a switch, open a door, push a switch, and have a light come on or something like that. Well, it turns out with some creative laying of redstone, you can actually create logic gates. So if you have two signals that are on, you can then have the output be on, but otherwise be off. And that's an AND gate. And of course, once you can create logic gates, well, at that point, sky's the limit. If you have 7 months of free time, go ahead and make your own Minecraft computer. This has been done for years. People have been making Minecraft ALUs and CPUs for a long time. Although I've never seen one with branch prediction before. That is impressive within Minecraft doing branch prediction. My usual go-to if I need a computer in Minecraft is to download ComputerCraft. And like mod it up and add basic computing components to Minecraft itself, so you're not doing everything in Redstone. But that was a pure Redstone project. That is super expensive. I am impressed.
yeah.
Thank you for explaining the mechanism, Kaitlyn, because I was really trying to wrap my mind around how this would be possible. So that was a really good breakdown on it.
Yeah. All right. And right. So back to me. So I was amazed by this. Wood burning under normal circumstances, only like 5% of the people in a town burn wood, but it causes more than half of the cancer risk, or rather more than any other single cause. So, I mean, where I grew up, everybody burned wood stoves and you smell the smoke all the time. Apparently that stuff is really, really bad for you, far worse than car exhaust. So they're talking about getting rid of people burning wood would be the best thing you could do to stop people getting sick from the smoke. And Liz has got brains in a jar.
This story, speaking of wild stories of things that people are doing. This one's really wild. Now, the original was a New Scientist, which I didn't link here because it was super heavily paywalled, but that is a really good publication that I enjoy reading. And just a secondary report that was published by a number of outlets, in this case from PCgamer.com. And the story revolves around a company I've heard of before, and I can't remember why. I was just trying to remember why they were ringing a bell, called Cortical Labs. And they're working on doing biological integrations with silicon. So,
Board.
yes, which is going to be very interesting. So what they do is grow brain cells on these microelectronic arrays so they can be stimulated with electrical pulses. And they figured out a way to get these biohybrid chips to solve problems, to learn things and restructure. So essentially what he did was pit this, they call it brain dish because it's, or dish brain, because it's a bunch of brain cells in a petri dish. And they pitted it against AI to see how long, in a race to see who could learn Pong faster. And the dish brain beat AI for speed in learning Pong, which I thought was pretty wild and interesting.
So how long before like our car has a lab grown brain in it?
That's what I wondered. And also, what happens when the cells mutate and your Borg gets brain cancer and then starts, I've been close to someone with brain cancer, and behavior is, wow, there was some unpredictable and far out behavior that can go along with that sometimes. Not in every case, of course, but depending on what kind of tumor, where it is, etc., there can be some very strong shifts of personality and shocking shifts of personality. And it makes you wonder, and also what about when you figure out how to hack these things?
Yeah. A brave new world.
Yes.
All right. And so Kaitlyn has the 4th dose. Mm-hmm. Kaitlyn seems to have there.
Oh, mute. Yes, that's a thing that exists.
Mhm.
All right, so the 4th dose. So everyone should already have their 3rd dose already. And we're already talking about the 4th dose, or at least according to the Pfizer CEO. So CNBC has an article written by Spencer Kimball talking to the Pfizer CEO, who was looking at the 3rd shot, so the first booster, and its effect on the Omicron virus. And the Pfizer CEO says, oh yeah, no, it really does help a lot to get that booster to protect you against Omicron. However, Omicron, is spreading fast, and we don't know, how long it's going to take until we need a new booster. So they were initially planning like 1 year down the road. So you get your first 2 shots, like one after another. Then you would wait 6 months to get your booster, and then you would wait 12 months to get your second booster. Well, Omicron kind of threw a wrench into everything, and now they're looking into the possibility of speeding up that process. So we may all be getting a 4th shot sooner rather than later, which is all the article is basically saying. So have fun with those shots, everyone.
Well, suits me. I was first in line, but that's why I put it in here in case. I thought this may shock you, but I know some people that have not gotten the booster. And yet Donald Trump got the booster and told his crowds to get it. And they, of course, booed him. And he said, don't boo me. You should get the booster. which, good for him. And I think like the Democratic health executives came out on Twitter and said, yes, all of you should be like Donald Trump and get the booster, which I'm all for that. If you like Trump, fine.
Yeah, everyone be like Donald Trump, get that booster.
Yeah. But you think about it this way: you can get the booster, and then you'll be alive to be very, very, very annoying about politics for longer. You'll get to troll more. Anyway, that's why I told my other friends, you should get the shot because then you'll be alive to complain about it, and that worked. Anyway, so Irvin has got. We're not going back to the office, apparently.
Apparently, ZDNet's person here is saying that it's not going to happen for the tech workers. Them going back on site, they're going to rebel. So businesses need to run with it. That hey, that specific wing is just not going to come back.
I think a lot of businesses have done this. I think Coinbase no longer has any physical location at all, nor any plan to have one. And Twitter's already said you can just stay remote forever. I think a lot of people are going for that.
Yeah.
In a way, this is the glorious tech future we were supposed to have. We can live on like a peaceful, sunlit island or tomato farm or something and do all our work from there.
I mean, the problem though is that there really is benefit in making personal connections at work. I mean, I don't see this really. I mean, when COVID is over, I'm going to insist that I at least have a few days a week where I'm working at home, because you do need to make sure that your company or the place where you work has the infrastructure to support work from home in case something like this happens. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a pandemic. It could just be bad weather. It could be smoke in the sky. It could be fires, something, but you need to make sure that your workforce can work from home in an emergency and not panic when everyone suddenly has to work from home. So I'm definitely going to make sure that at least once or twice a week, I'm going to continue working from home and try to get people on board with that as well. However, I mean, it just seems like career suicide to like isolate yourself from your peers and not be at work, not interacting with them, not having that water cooler discussions. I mean, I know there are days where you're working really hard and you don't want to have any of that because you just have stuff to do. I get that. That's why I want days where I'm just working from home too. But you got to make friends. You got to expand out. You got to meet the people you're working with. Sometimes just running into someone you've never seen before in the hall, you strike up a conversation. I mean, those things are actually important. So
I like the hybrid model best. Having the option to go in is nice, and having the option to work from home is nice. But for fully distributed teams, one thing that I think is a good thing to do is, obviously we can't right now, but to do retreats once in a while. Like if you've got a globally or a nationally distributed team, like have a couple employee retreats a year, and hopefully people can go and get together and get to know each other. Or at least, maybe one for your team so that you get to know the people that you're working most closely with if your office has no physical location.
That sounds good until I think about the activities that probably happen at corporate retreats. And I think I'd probably rather die. It's usually like wearing the official IBM socks and singing the IBM hymns and then pulling a rope across a mud pit and stuff like that.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
On the flip side, it could be just like a Squid Game.
Yeah, well, I know that's the thing. Anyway, I kind of like the idea, except I bet in practice it's going to be like the HR required videos you have to watch for compliance. Anyway, all right. So Alan has got gifts for retro computing.
Yes, for the retro computing geeks in your life, IEEE Spectrum has a gift guide in which I don't believe there are any affiliate links, so they are not hyping worthless junk. These are actually good recommendations, and some of them are better known than others, like the digital PDP-8 replica, which contains a Raspberry Pi, comes in a very nice case with all the plastic switches and all that, and the original color palette and everything. That company, incidentally, also has a PDP-11 replica. So both of them are very nice. I think that company's called Obsolescence Guaranteed, which is very appropriate.
That's why I was thinking, when you said this is not worthless junk, I was going to push back. Wait a minute. Kind of the whole definition of this stuff is
No, it's not at all worthless junk. You can have your own PDP-8. It's got its own blinky lights, all these switches. It fits on your bookshelf. It is scaled down.
I like the Altair
There's
Duino.
one. Kaitlyn's got some retro stuff.
Yeah, there's also the Altair 8800.
Yeah.
It too has switches and blinky lights, and it's built on an Arduino Due.
Yep.
So
Do they have the Commodore 64 like Kaitlyn?
Commodore 64 is not on the list, unfortunately.
Oh, I love this Commodore 64 Maxi. It is so fun, and it's completely moddable.
Wow.
It uses the keyboard is just, it's faux USB. So it just uses USB connectors, but doesn't use a USB like actual connector. So you can just
Wow.
mod on.
The original was totally moddable. That was why you bought it, to build it
Yes.
into things.
Yes, yes, yes. Get the Maxi, everyone. It's so fun.
That's awesome.
Well, just remember to get expedited shipping if you should order any of these things. Not much time left if you are trying to get something in time for Christmas.
Well, yeah. All right. And you had another one here I thought was good. Adding more robots.
Yeah, DHL has added a bunch of robots to its warehouses. Some of the news coverage suggests that maybe this is because of a worker shortage and they just need to get as many new robots in as quickly as possible for the holiday season. It's not entirely true. Apparently DHL has had this in the works for a while. They are working with a company called Locus, and these robots are not super fancy. We've seen robots of this type before. It's just like a little stand that moves around on the warehouse floor, and it's got a display screen, and it can pick up a few boxes at a time. I don't know how sophisticated it really is, but it's an interesting example of a shipping company integrating robots into its quote unquote workforce. And DHL is projecting 2,000 warehouses by 2022, or at some point in 2022. That's a substantial number of robots. And unlike some warehouses like Amazon, where all the packages or all the items are consistent and in well-defined locations, I imagine with DHL you have kind of a hodgepodge of stuff scattered all around. So maybe this represents some kind of upgrade in package sorting, finding capabilities among robots. Nevertheless, it's an interesting trend too. Now more and more companies are integrating robots into their warehousing and packing capabilities. So maybe this is going to be something that becomes more and more of a thing in all the warehouses of the world, not just Amazon.
I know this is one of Andrew Yang's big things, is that many of the jobs are going to be replaced by automation. And I'm all for it. I mean, why would anybody want a job like that?
Well, they want a job like that because they don't have many other better options.
Well, what we need is like universal basic income, and then people can not do these stupid jobs and let the robots do it.
Now you're talking communist.
Exactly. Yeah, just like, yeah. Anyway.
Well, after this pandemic and what I've seen of climate change, government's response to climate change thus far, I am rather pessimistic about basic income, universal basic income.
Yeah. Why?
Well, we're gonna have to do something because a good chunk of people are gonna have no options for work within the next several years. And I think skilled trades are always gonna be in demand, but not everybody's cut out for skilled trades. I mean, we sometimes look down on those, but they're essentially engineering jobs that require a certain level of intelligence and quite a level of commitment of several years to learn how to do that stuff. And other blue collar jobs are getting automated or outsourced So I don't know, I don't know what it's gonna look like. The landscape's gonna be here if people can't find other ways to make money, and we're not gonna feed people or address our glaring issues with the medical system in this country.
Yeah, what are you afraid of, Alan? You think the government can't figure out how to hand out money? Seems to me like they have that skill.
No, I don't think the government can hand out money.
Oh, well.
Not with the Joe Mansions of the world.
Oh, well. Now, I agree with you that we can't get it through the political system to make it happen, but the technology exists.
Oh, well, the technology exists, of course. And I'm sure there are more than a few crypto bros out there who are more than happy to provide solutions using the blockchain.
Of course. The answer to everything.
Yes, but no, I don't think the political will exists to
Oh,
make
yes.
it happen.
Well, that's certainly true. It's a big step towards socialism, and that's what we're currently battling in this country. We're either going to, it looks like socialism is not winning, and the resurgence of Republicans and Trump is what I expect, but we'll see, because this Omicron might end COVID, and then I think that'll be the end of Trump. But we're going to live through more exciting times. Anyway,
No
that's
doubt.
it. That's it for this one, and we'll be back on Friday, I reckon. At least some of us. Other people might have something to do with this silly holiday season or something. You got something to say, Kaitlyn? Yeah.
Well, no. Just Commodore 64 is awesome. That's all.
It is, of course. And it comes with like a rainbow sticker on it.
Yes.
Which is quite authentic. I love that thing. I love the VIC-20 before it even more. It came with a giant thick book that I learned programming from. And that book was awesome. And one of the things awesome about it was that 100% of the code examples were wrong and did not run. Every single one of them you had to fix. And I learned a lot doing that.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a really good way to learn.
It prepared me for the world of CTFs.
Yes.
All right. Farewell. Gotta find the button.
It's right there.